I honestly found this reading to be one of the most difficult so far this year. Almost everything so far in our Old Testament reading has been a story. Here, as we're smack dab in the middle of Proverbs, it's just verse after verse of a piece of advice, a piece of wisdom, and it's hard to do several chapters of that all at one time each day throughout the course of the week. But let's point out a few things about the nature of these Proverbs that will hopefully help you some as you're reading this week. Okay, there are two Proverbs back to back in chapter 26 that I think do a good job of showing us and highlighting the nature of these Proverbs. And it's a little bit strange or a little bit funny because in Proverbs 26, verse 4, the proverb writer says, "Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself." So if you've ever have been on Facebook or Twitter, you know exactly what this means. Don't even engage with the foolish person because you'll stoop to his level and become like him. The weird thing is the very next verse, verse 5 says, "Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes." And we understand this to be true as well, that sometimes somebody just needs to be corrected and told what's up so that they don't continue on in their folly. And I think this highlights something that we pointed out even in last week's video, which is that these proverbs are not hard and fast commands with guaranteed promises. That these are general rules and that they require the use of wisdom or skill in applying them in each situation that you might come across. Because there are some situations in which it is important to answer that foolish person and straighten him out, and there are some situations where it's just better to walk away. But both of these paint a general picture of something that is true, and so we see that what's happening in Proverbs, Solomon is pointing out, here's what happens when you live by wisdom. Here's what happens when you live by folly. Some of these are closer to what we might call a direct command, where it said, you need to do this, okay? But many of these simply say, when you do this, this is what's going to happen. When you seek to make money quickly, it's going to come quickly to ruin. If you work hard and are diligent, you will be prosperous. These are the general outcomes of living by wisdom and living by folly. And that gets really to the overall purpose of Proverbs, which is to give advice for living well. We are maybe in a good way so used to reading the Bible for what we might call spiritual applications that a book like Proverbs can strike us as strange because it is so practical. It is so day to day, and here's how you live well right now. And of course, there are what we might call spiritual applications to be drawn from this, but I think primarily what Solomon is telling us is how to live well now. And he does that by showing us pictures of a foolish person, what comes of them, and a wise person, what comes of them. And from these pictures, these images, these riddles, so to speak, we have general outcomes that then guide us on how we are to make our decisions and develop our habits day after day. There is another category of proverb, at least one other category that I will point out. Sometimes, not as often, the proverb writer is simply identifying that this is a reality of life. So one of the strangest ones is in chapter 17, I believe, where he says that a bribe is like a magic stone in the hand of the user, that whatever he turns it, he prospers. And you would think, well, that sounds like he's condoning and promoting the use of a bribe. In fact, in other places, he'll talk about how being unjust or using a bribe or imbalanced scales is bad and will lead to ruin. But I think in instances like this, the Proverbs writer is simply saying, this is the way things work. Sometimes he'll talk about, when you're rich, people love you and you have friends. Is he promoting that kind of superficial motivation or loyalty? No, he's not. But he's simply pointing out this is the way life works. So do your best. Maybe you'll find this easier to get through than I did. But for now, I hope that the morsels of wisdom that you are taking in from Proverbs can help you to live well, to live by wisdom in the fear of the Lord.